Imam Hussein Development and Relief Foundation are determined to help. We will be providing households with coal to burn throughout the winter. $150 is all we need. $150 will be enough to provide heat and warmth for one household for the whole of winter. That's $150 for 4 months. You can donate via PayPal, bank transfer, or visit us at www.ihdrf.org to make a donation. Our Imams tell us the best of you are those who help those who are desperate. Help us spread the warmth. Thank you.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. This is a live show. We're taking all of your questions. So if you have any question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp, the email address. Give us a call live in the studio, 0203 515 0199. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah, the technical team in the back, they'll send it over to me on my iPad, and inshallah, me and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer all of your questions. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ar. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you this evening, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
MashaAllah, ahsantum. Sheikhna, is it permissible to play with cards on the electronic devices as computers and smartphones?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Playing with all types of gambling games is absolutely forbidden. These are games of chance, the games in which would drive the one from the dhikrullah Azza wa Jal. And that's why they are being forbidden and haram to be played. Be it with money or without money. It's made for gambling originally, that's why it's haram. And with whatever means, computer and so forth, so it's all haram.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, when we perform sujood, what is the best material for us to do sujood on?
In overall, sujood is wajib, and you have to make sure that the forehead rests on the ground when performing the sujood. On the soil, on the clay, on the sand. But of course, the best type of the means of sujood is to prostrate on the sand or the soil of Karbala, the land of Karbala. A narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he states with this regard, في طين قبر الحسين عليه السلام شفاء من كل داء وهو الدواء الأكبر. The Imam states that the clay or the sand of the grave of Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi provides cure for all illnesses, and it is indeed the great medicine, so in which the one can prostrate on or to use small amounts for tabarruk, for shifa, and there's a small dua with this regard as well before using this khaki shifa. Before using this small dua, you recite it and then you use it to cure the illnesses and the diseases and so forth.
Ahsant. Sheikh, it is mentioned in the scholars' treatise, may Allah be merciful with the late and protect the living, that the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, are najis. Now, are the ISIS members considered enemies of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, and therefore najis? From His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir al-Najfi, he says, what does he say?
The Sheikh mentions that whoever shows animosity and hatred towards Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam is najis as well, definitely. But why shouldn't you consider also ISIS, who killed the Shia of Ahlul Bayt, who would basically behead the one who says, I'm a follower of Ali alayhi salam. They would kill him straight away. Because we have hadith with this regard. Again, from Imam Abdullah al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, الناصب من نصب لكم. The nasibi the one who shows animosity towards Ahlul Bayt is the one who shows hatred towards you, the Shia, the followers. وهو يعلم أنكم تتولون, and they know, the ISIS with the others, they know that you are the Shia, you follow us, you believe in us. وأنكم من شيعة, and that you are the Shia and you follow us. So the Nasibi, not necessarily to come and curse, God forbid, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, but by killing the Shia, because they are Shia, they are the lovers of Ali alayhi salam,
Yes.
then they become Nasibi as well.
MashaAllah. Sheikh, according to his evidence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id Hakim, the late, rahmatullah alayhi, the late Sayyid Sa'id Hakim, is it halal to become a boxer?
The late Sayyid mentions that it is not permissible to expose one's towards the death by the means of this type of sports, boxing and so forth, that would cause fatal injury and wounds at the end of the day. So as a precaution, one should avoid such game in which would cause severe wounds or disabling an organ, for example. The one might lose his eyes, for example,
Yes.
as a result of several punching, and a severe wound would cause disability. In this case, as a precaution, it's not permissible.
Sheikh, a question here from one of our viewers, and that is, which book recommend for tafsir of Holy Quran? Which books or which tafsir do you recommend for our viewers for them to learn more about the Holy Quran?
We have different types of tafsir. Of course, the best one, the one which have the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam as a means of tafsir of the Ma'soom alayhi salam and the ta'wil of the Ma'soom. We have tafsir al-Burhan, tafsir al-Qummi, very famous, these two tafsir. Tafsir Nur al-Thaqalain. Other tafsir one can refer to, but these are the main ones. You can go back, mainly these are ahadith, and some of them ahadith based tafsir from Ahlul Bayt and from the 14 infallible. Salamu alayhim ajma'in.
Sheikhna, a single young man has become capable to perform Hajj. He's also thinking about marriage. Now, if he goes for Hajj, his marriage ceremony will be delayed for a while. Which of the two is preferable, marriage or pilgrimage? From the opinion of His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani.
The Sayyid mentions that he must perform the Hajj and postpone the marriage, unless postponing and delaying the marriage would cause severe difficulty to an extent that is not bearable. It's going to be very difficult. He might fall into haram, for example, haram act. Maybe he might go for dating, for example, or chat with the opposite gender on the internet, for example. Sharing images, videos, and so forth. In this case, of course, the one can switch back to the marriage and postpone the Hajj in this case.
Sheikh, is it permissible for someone who has performed the mustahab ghusl to do things that are permissible to do for someone who has done janaba ghusl or wudu, other than salah, such as touching the script of the Holy Quran or the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
You see, an overall mustahab ghusl would not be suffice to be able to touch the Holy Quran's ayat. The one needs to do wudu instead in this case, to be able to touch the Holy Quran's verses in this regard.
Is it necessary to take off contact lenses worn on the eye for wudu or for ghusl?
No, it's not necessary to take them off, because you don't have to wipe inside your eyes, basically. Yes, you have to wash and wipe on your face, but not inside your eyes. So you have to leave it. It should be fine.
No problem. Sheikh, is it obligatory to respond to the salam written in a letter?
It's not wajib to respond to the salam in the letter, but it is preferable, of course. The one is good to respond to people with salam, be there on the chat, let's say on the text messages, for example, or even letters. The wajib one is the one which is done directly. So the one comes inside the door and says Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
In a way that even if you're inside the salah, it's wajib to respond with the same Assalamu alaikum to that individual. So yes, face to face or verbally, that becomes wajib.
I see. Sheikhna, some questions from one of our viewers. Are Alawites and Druze Muslims? Druze? Muslims.
Duruz, yes.
Duruz. Are Alawites and Duruz Muslims?
Well, if those faiths are not really within the Islamic boundary in terms of the Shahadatain, they don't say the Shahadatain, for example, they reject the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then of course they're not Muslims. So it depends which type of Alawi we talk about. The Shia Alawites or the ones who believe in some kind of other beliefs other than what we believe as Muslims. So it depends.
Sheikhna, does the place that a person chooses to his abode is considered as his hometown regardless of whether or not he was born there or whether it was his parents or he chose it to be his hometown?
Yes, the one who chooses a place to go and live there for a couple of years, let's say for 4 or 5 years. Say somebody who lives in the UK, he wants to move to the US to study for 4 or 5 years, or he's got a job contract for 5 years, 4 years. Then of course, this second place would be his second hometown, Watan al-Thani, in which of course he needs to complete his salah and fast as well in full. So whenever he leaves that area for let's say ziyarah or a trip back to the UK, for example, or to the Middle East, then of course when he goes back to the US, he needs to pray in full and fast as well, because that's his second hometown, second watan, in which he has chosen to live there for a couple of years.
I see. Sheikhna, on the question of Alawites and Duruz Muslims, if they're not Muslims, can we consider them Ahl al-Kitab?
No, you can't, because Ahl Kitab are restricted to the Christians, the Jews, and some would say the Russians as well.
I see.
Yeah, so you can't add them to them.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. This is from one of our viewers. Can muta be done with non-Muslims?
Do you mean by the Christians and Jews, or the Hindus and Buddhists and so forth?
It says non-Muslims.
Only with Ahl Kitab,
Only with
as
Ahl
non-Muslims.
Kitab.
Yeah, Ahl Kitab only.
Question from YouTube. Is student loans haram?
Student loans, are there any interest to be paid for such?
Now there is. Before there wasn't, but now there is a small interest to be paid on it.
I mean, it depends if there is a need for it to pay for the cost of the livings. Of course, the marja would give ijazah in this case if the one asks for the ijazah, because this is something is compelled that one needs for payments or for the fees and so forth.
I see. Excellent. Shaykh, the traveller who must shorten his salah, if he misses any of the Dhuhr, Asr or Isha salah, is it mandatory for him to perform their qadha or qasr short?
Yes, indeed. Even if he went back to his hometown, his watan, because the hadith says, اقضي ما فات كما فات. Make up the salah and do the qadha as it was missed. So if you missed it in travel as qasr, you have to make up and do the qadha of that salah as qasr. If you missed it in full, then you have to pray as qadha in full. So اقضي ما فات كما فات.
Sheikhna, question from one of our viewers: is animal blood haram when cooking?
You see, when let's say the sheep is slaughtered and the amount of blood has gushed from the neck of this sheep, most of the blood has been gushed out, and the animal is also washed in terms of the najasa, outside najasa. Whatever remains inside the body of the sheep becomes tahir. So that blood inside it is tahir.
I see. Sheikhna, question from one of our viewers again: is khums to be paid on student loans since it's a debt?
You see, if you have an annual khums day, whatever you gain, you have to basically pay khums on it. So we have to see if that loan is some kind of gain, because they pay you in order to pay for your costs and livings and so forth. And whatever is left over is excess on your annual amount income.
But Sheikh, technically it's a loan, like it's a debt, it's something you have to pay back.
على كل حال we have to see if this is tend to be becomes yours as income, or is it just a loan? Because this is a long-term loan. When you get the job, after say even 10 years, you get the right amount of income, and there's conditions to repay back the loan.
Yes.
So we have to see exactly what type of it.
Interesting. Sheikhna, he who rejects one of the previous prophets, peace be upon them, or the prophethood of the seed of the prophets, peace be upon him and his pure family, would be deemed to have rejected the Islamic religion altogether. What would be the ruling upon such individuals?
In this case, it becomes mandatory and wajib for the individual to go and guide them towards the right path, because they've been deviated from the right path. The one should, especially in this day and age in which we have so much rumors against the true teachings of Islam, too much Islamophobia, too much representing the Islam in this way. So we try to guide people بالتي أحسن وجادلهم بالتي أحسن, in a good manner, in a good way, in which attract them towards the Islam. So we have to try all the means in order to guide people towards the right path, because if they think that they have made the right choice, then what is the best option and for their aqidah and belief? For example, if everything becomes halal for him, alcohol, pork, what about the marriage from the same gender? Who can say this is haram or bad or good? If you leave Islam because of many issues in Islam, or even leave all religions, if you're a Christian, you become atheist, for example, who can tell you that marrying from the same gender is good or bad? You see, sometimes it's difficult for them to judge and to find the right solution. So everything has system, has law. We see the driving has law system in driving. The governments in the world, they have own system, regulations, legislations. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the creator of this human being. He would leave this human being without legislation, law. It's impossible. Aql doesn't accept it.
Sheikhna, from YouTube, Sheikh, can you recommend any books for learning about the Ahlul Bayt? I'm assuming these are books in English.
أهل البيت سلام الله عليهم. You can
كتاب الإرشاد.
إرشاد الشيخ المفيد, منتهى الآمال by Sheikh Abbas Qummi. Do they have translation in English?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, منتهى الآمال is very good to start. The biography and the life of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Yes.
Ahsant. Also, Sheikhna, can we take names in cursing enemies of the Ahlul Bayt publicly?
You see, it depends where you live. The place in which you live, you are in safe from being killed. It depends on the region. In overall, the bara'a and tabarri is wajib. The one should do so. Otherwise, we'll end up like some of those Shias in which they migrated from, I think, some parts of Syria to Turkey, and then many of them now are non-religious, although they believe in Imam Ali alayhi salam, but because of the taqiyya, too much cover up on the aqidah issues, many of them are Shia, but sadly they don't practice religion and faith and salah and fasting and so forth. So we have to show this tawalli and tabarri both publicly, so that we can keep and observe our aqidah and pass it to the next generations.
I see. Sheikh, are Jews, Christians and Muslims the only Ahlul Kitab, or are there others like mentioned in the Quran such as Zoroastrians and Sabi'ah?
The main ones are the Christians, Jews and the Zoroastrians, so
I see.
There's no Sabi'ah mentioned.
Is marriage from a different sect allowed? As in, you have a Shia marrying a Sunni or something like that?
Yes, but not recommended.
Okay. Is digesting bodily fluids from marital partners during intercourse allowed? Sheikh, I've read up something on this, and that is if it is najasa, for example, semen and also certain discharges from women are also considered like from urea. So if it's najasa, then you're not allowed to swallow it.
Definitely, yeah.
Fantastic. Is breastfeeding from wife allowed? I'm assuming she's breastfeeding her own child or breastfeeding someone else's child. I'm not sure. But from the WhatsApp, is breastfeeding from wife allowed?
If it's for the husband, some ulama would allow, you know, with the permission from the wife, they would allow.
Okay. Sheikh, bidding good and forbidding evil, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy al Munkar, are collective obligations, wajib al-kifai. And so, if some individuals or groups of people take up the task and sufficiently discharge the duty, the obligation will be waived for others. But if no one performs the obligation, what would be the ruling?
You see, when there's a munkar and nobody comes forward to refrain people from this munkar, let's say in a holy city where there are shrines, for example, and just near those shrines there is a party, let's say New Year's party, where there's a dance, where there's a mix of both gender, where there's a music, loud music, there's a singer with songs. That's basically is an act of evil, an act of munkar that must be refrained from. So if people don't care about it and they just ignore it, and nobody does the wajib of nahy al-munkar, of course, everyone will be known to be as disobedient to this act. So unless a group of people would go there and do the nahy munkar and ask them to leave the place, for example, to stop, let's say, publicly drinking next to those shrines, for example, then of course the wajib is done, at least by few people.
Sheikh, let's go to our Shia Plus video, inshallah, and see what we can help with our youth today, inshallah, what issues they're going through.
Ooh, I'm hungry. What am I feeling? A chocolate or McCoy's? Alright, 21 cheddar onion. Oh, 2 came down. Oh. If 2 comes down, but I didn't pay for the second one, is it halal?
There we go, Sheikh. Young Yasser, they're getting very lucky, going to a vending machine and 2 items falling instead of 1. Is it halal for him to consume?
With the consent of the owners of this machine and the items inside it, yes, he can consume. Otherwise, he needs to ask permission to consume the second item in which he hasn't paid for.
I see. Sheikh, is it haram to bid in auctions?
It should be halal, there's no issue with it.
Depends what you're bidding on.
Exactly,
To be honest. Yeah. If someone husband does not allow for you to go to Ahlul Bayt places, for example, Karbala, Iran, what is the order of the Ahlul Bayt about it? So from on the WhatsApp, we've got someone here saying that the husband will not allow the wife to go do ziyarah. Is there anything that we have from the Ahlul Bayt to say that you don't need to listen to your husband and you can go and you should go?
Basically, the wajib upon the wife to ask permission for leaving the house. In such situation, she can talk to him and encourage him to go together, for example. So instead of she going by herself, let them go together for the ziyarah, and they can both enjoy in this trip. So why not?
I see. Sheikh, we've got a really interesting question here from the WhatsApp. Is doing mutta with a bisexual but from Ahlul Kitab allowed? So, I'll give an example, Sheikh. If there is a man who's with, let's say, a Christian lady, but the Christian lady is bisexual, so she is attracted to men and she's attracted to women as well. Can we do mut'ah with such a situation with that person?
The best is want to avoid such relationship, as you might also exposed to diseases and other issues.
Oh, wow.
So one should avoid it, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Sheikh, if a young practicing man grows a beard, but his father insists that he shaves, but he refuses such that his father is angered, what would be his position?
And overall, the son is not considered to be as aq or unkind to his parents, in which, of course, aq is an act of haram because you're hurting your parents. But should try to seek father's contentment and pleasure in this case. Always try to be kind to them and gain their satisfaction and rida.
Inshallah. Sheikh, we're going to go to a short break, inshallah. Join us after the break. We will continue to discuss your questions here on Ahkam SOS. See you after the break.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
Islam
the graves?
establish based on peace
Is
and
it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted
individuals?
to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Yes, you can send in all your questions via the WhatsApp, the email address. Give us a call in the studio 0203 515 0199. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. And inshallah, the technical team will be able to forward it to me. And also, if you have TikTok and you're a big fan of TikTok, you can follow us at Ahkam SOS. And we give out videos. Also, in the comment section, we do reply to a lot of your questions in the comment section. So inshallah, on TikTok, please follow us and get involved there at Ahkam SOS. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, I serve in the army, and in the winter we are not allowed to go to the showers except once a week. And on occasions I have ejaculations while asleep during the week. Is it imperative for me to perform tayammum for every salah, or is it sufficient to perform tayammum once?
I mean, this person needs to perform one ghusl instead of one tayammum instead of ghusl. So one tayammum replacing the ghusl that he has no access to water for the ghusl wajib, and perform wudu for every salah. Yes.
Fair enough. Sheikh, some questions coming in from our viewers. Can we ask our own hajat in wajib namaz qunut?
Yes, indeed, the one can ask his hajat. Allahumma qad hawaij, for example, shafi mardana. Yes, you can ask your hajat and make your own dua as well. That's fine.
Talking about prayer, can you curse the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt during prayer?
Of course. In the Quran mentioned the curse of the enemies, the liars. نجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. So,
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, we were talking about husband and wife, and the husband's not allowing to send the wife to for ziyarah and so forth. And they've asked a second question saying, if he never allows me to go visit, so I never visit the places of the Ahlul Bayt.
I mean, the monk should get the elderly in the community involved, or the family members who has the influence on this individual to be able, in the mother-in-law, for example, the father-in-law, whoever is able to play the role of convincing him and persuading him to, let's say, for example, go for the ziyarah or for majalis, for any other purposes. Maybe you have to go back to, let's say, the Ahkam Shara, the marja, to see what can be done, for example, with this case. But as I've said, it's some kind of mutual agreement for leaving the house. Sometimes just a one of agreement that yes, you can leave the house. I don't have any issue, so you don't have to ask every time to leave the house. For the abroad trips, of course, they have to also come to an agreement.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Why in Khums there is 50% share of Sadat, otherwise we are all the same human? Why the big discrimination between Sadat and other people? I probably assume there's more needy or poor people or pious people in Ansad who are not Sadat. Please answer, thanks.
Basically because for the Sada, they're not allowed to have the sadaqah, the normal sadaqah or charity paid to them. They can't have it. So the only means is the khums. They can't have the zakat, in other words. The zakat, we know, like the charity. So only they can have this portion of hummus. That's why they've been given this portion. So when something is haram for them, they have to find alternative, which is the khums of Sadat.
I see. Sheikhna, is Ahlul Bayt part of La ilaha illallah, meaning that not all Muslims will enter heaven eventually just because of their belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Imam Rida alayhi salam, on his arrival in Nayshabur, just before entering Khurasan or the Tus, on his journey from Medina all the way to Tus and Khurasan, when he stopped, thousands of narrators took out pen and paper and they wrote this hadith that the Imam mentioned, that kalimatu la ilaha illallah husni, that the narration of this hadith, that Allah Azza wa Jalla says that this la ilallah is a shield. And then the Imam says that wa ana min shurutiha, or I am part of this condition of la ilaha illallah. In other words, that you have to submit and follow and believe in Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Without it, this la ilaha illallah would have no value in the sight of Allah on the Day of Judgment. You must believe in the Holy Quran, in la ilaha illallah, and itrati Ahl Bayti, and my progeny, my family. Both. If you drop one of them, then you have dropped in the hellfire now.
I see. Sheikh, like if a woman wants to visit her family and her husband doesn't allow, which should be chosen?
Again, they have to come into some kind of agreement, get involved, the elderly in the community, the family, the Mawlana, whoever has influence on the husband to be able to ease the situation, or at least explain, to find out what is the reason. Is it due to tradition, culture, or is it to do with something wrong is going on, for example, in privacy, in private? So they have to try to find a solution for this issue.
Sheikh, now, what are Dhul Aqrab nights when nikah is not allowed or makruh, and is intercourse makruh too on the night, and what are its consequences?
It's mentioned that if the moon passes through the Scorpio,
yes,
on those 3 nights in the month, then the one should refrain as a makruh.
Yes.
The intercourse and such like. In overall, we have such a narration of this regard that if the result was a child, then of course the child would be disfigured or somehow disabled. So the one should avoid in these certain nights.
I see. Sheikh, how do I curse the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt during prayer?
The one which is mentioned nicely, that you say Allahumma la'an al-jibta wa taghut. So may Allah curse the tyrants and the oppressors.
And that's in Qanut.
Yes, that's why I say. Yes.
Sheikh, really good question here. Are there any haram vegetables? Are there any vegetables we're not allowed to eat? I would assume maybe certain mushrooms you're not allowed to eat because obviously it's fungus, bacteria.
Yeah, unless they're harmful, poisonous.
There's some mushrooms that make
venom.
you hallucinate.
It depends, yeah.
Are there any poison? Some of them are poisonous as well, mushrooms and so forth. But yeah, in general, any vegetables which are haram?
I haven't heard anything about it, unless it's harmful, as you mentioned.
No, I haven't heard neither. Can we do a few niyas together in Walidain Salah?
To do what, sorry?
Can we do a few niyats together in Walidain Namaz, Walidain Salah?
That wasn't clear, that word.
Walidain.
No, the one before that.
Niyat together.
For the Walidain Salah?
Yeah, more than one.
Yes, you can. You can.
Multiple niyat.
Opinions you can, yes.
Okay. What am I supposed to do if I wet myself during the night? I'm an aging man and I cannot control myself. I'm assuming maybe this is to do with Salah or something like that. But we do have elderly who, cannot control themselves due to old age and so forth. And maybe it's difficult for them to keep wudu and things like that.
If it's a medical issue, they have to seek medical advice to see what they can do. But in terms of the Sharia-wise, if he can perform the ghusl, then of course it's wajib for him to perform the ghusl and go to the bathroom and do the ghusl. So in very special and exceptional situations, then he can switch to tayammum instead of ghusl in exceptional and compelled situations.
I see. Sheikh, more questions coming in. What is the ruling of blood in eggs?
Yes, some ulama would say it's najis. You cannot consume it unless you remove it from the egg and then you cook it or fry it, whatever.
I see. Another question here, Sheikhna, and that is, why do we recite tasbih and use prayer beads at the end of every prayer? Isn't this something Christians do?
We have been informed by narrations that to perform tasbih Fatima alayhi salam, in which the Holy Prophet taught Lady Fatima alayhi salam to say these tasbih beads, in which would have a great reward after each salah.
I see. Question from one of our viewers, Sheikhna, from one of our viewers, and that is, where is the grave of Fatima Zahra salam alayha?
We don't know. This is one of the secrets in which...
Can we say that it's in Medina? That's for certain, no?
Seems to be, inshallah. We can't really say exactly where she is been buried. But the Imam, yes, they came out on that night secretly with Salman Abu Dhar and the loyal ashab of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and they went and they buried her somewhere around that area. Inside the mosque, outside the mosque, we never know. It's one of the secrets.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, is red wine vinegar halal?
Anything that is vinegar, it's halal. Because now it's been transformed from alcohol or wine to vinegar. It tastes different. There's no drunkenness or intoxication anymore. So because of this inqilab or change of
Istihal?
Inqilab, transformation from alcohol to vinegar, then it becomes halal and tahir to consume.
I see. Sheikhna, is cat meat halal?
Not at all. It's forbidden to consume, of course.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. There is a Christian that works in my butcher shop, but he says the meat is halal. Can I buy from him?
You see, if it's from a Muslim butchery, then if he says halal, then you can trust him. Muslims market, Muslim hands is a hujjah, in other words. It's a proof where you can straight away buy without investigating. Yes. But when it comes to non-Muslims, you have to investigate and find out to see if they actually bring from the halal source.
Sheikhna, what about when we go to like these Western supermarkets? I don't need to mention names, but the big stores everyone knows. And sometimes they have halal meat available, and all they have is a sticker on it that says it's halal. Sometimes raw meat, sometimes cooked food as well. Are we allowed to, assume that yes, these are halal because they're packaged and everything? And we have a food authority. We have, like HMC and they have HFA. These the halal food authorities also that are, looking and auditing and making sure that all the meat is, being done in a halal manner. Can we agree and say yes, the stuff is halal? We can purchase it off the shelf.
Usually, these giant supermarkets, they won't cheat or lie to their customers. That's going to be problematic for them.
And bad publicity.
Exactly. So yes, you can trust, especially if the butcher is a Muslim butcher behind those selling the meats on the cashier. Yes, you can trust, but as I've said, if it's solely a Christian who's selling you or a non-Muslim selling you the meat, you have to investigate. It's all to do with trust.
I see.
Itma'nan. If you have this itma'nan and trust, you can buy.
Sheikhna, is looking at women's ankles allowed?
The only places you can look without lust, without any temptation, any feelings, is the hands and the face, nothing else.
Okay. What is the ruling of Salah Qasr if one is returning to home?
If you're home, then you just have to pray full Salah. The Qasr Salah ends when you arrive in your hometown.
Yes.
You see the borders, the buildings of your hometown. That's it, you've arrived. Now you have to start praying full.
Okay. Sheikh, now the act that invalidates the wudu also invalidates the tayammum instead of wudu. And those that render the ghusl void render the tayammum instead of ghusl void too. Is this statement true?
Yes, indeed. Whatever renders the tayammum batil, the same applies with the wudu as well. Because you are now doing tayammum instead of wudu, for example. So whatever act that breaks the wudu breaks the tayammum as well.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is khums allowed to the Afghanistan refugees who have left their properties due to war and are suffering now?
I mean, you have to ask always permission if you want to use the khumus money, be it the Sada portion or the Imam's portion. Always try to contact the office of your marja or his representative and ask for the permission to use, and they usually would give at least half of the portion for such urgent cases.
Sheikh, who are the mahram in terms of women and men in the family?
The sisters, the brothers, mothers, fathers, grandfather, grandmothers, the children, grandchildren, and so forth, uncles and aunties, and so forth.
Sheikh, who was Abdullah ibn Saba? Was he Shia?
There's lots of things about this individual. Did he existed at all, or he didn't exist? So there's a lot of discussion and debates about this individual.
Sheikh, is eating from non-Muslims allowed?
If it's to do with meat and chicken, of course, you have to avoid, because usually their food is not halal. But if it's to do with vegetables, as long as you haven't seen with your eyes, that they've touched that food with their wet hands, then of course you are allowed to eat.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. What is the Islamic view on honor killing? That's on WhatsApp. Honor killing is when it normally happens when a family find out that the daughter was, having a relationship with someone which wasn't approved of, wasn't halal. Let's say she fell in love with someone that she met at school or so forth, and because it's such a shame on the family, they kill her. It's very, very popular in my culture, in the Pakistani community, very popular in the Indian subcontinent culture with Hindus and with Sikhs. The Islamic view on this, Sheikhna?
Absolutely not allowed, and it's a crime, and it's haram and forbidden to spill the blood of an innocent individual in this case, even if she has committed haram and so forth, but it shouldn't reach to the case of killing that individual.
Sheikhna, I heard recently that the 313 companions of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam are people of a present and not from past.
I'm not sure about it.
Fair enough. Is stoning a woman have any basis in Shia fiqh?
You see, there are ahkam shari'iyya in Islam, capital punishments or punishments in overall, in which has to be performed when there is a just leadership, a just and true Islamic government system, such as the one in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Imam Amirul Mu'minin sallallahu alaihi. By all that means, they haven't performed such punishments, except very few cases, very unique cases in which that took place. But in overall, you cannot apply these ahkam today when there's unjust governments, Islamic governments are ruling over the Muslims. There are political prisoners, jails, torture, all types of oppression, suppression against the Muslims. So you cannot apply such hukum when there's a huge poverty in the Muslim nation. How can you cut the hands of a thief when there are at least 30 to 40 conditions before cutting one's hand?
I see. Wow.
So you can't implement these ahkam today with such unjust governments over the life and the livelihoods of the Muslims.
Ahsantum, Sheikhna. I heard recently, next question, is Sahib az-Zaman present on earth?
Of course, we believe in that. That's one of the aqidah of the Shia, in which لَوْلَا الْحُجَّةَ لَسَاخَتُ الْأَرْضُ بِأَهْلِهَا. If there's no hujjah, the earth will be destroyed and doomed. So there must be hujjah from Allah on earth, as Allah Azza wa Jal created Adam to be the prophet and number one human being and number one hujjah upon the humanity. So of course, the Imam exists, otherwise things would be different.
Sheikhna, is it true that Imam Mahdi is the only one who can make the ruling of death or something similar?
So what do you mean by that?
Capital punishment. When, according to the Sharia, this person should be killed. Only Imam az-Zaman is the one that can make that call. No other people cannot make it.
You see, as I've said, because we don't have a just government today on the earth, we cannot implement these ahkam to this extent. So the Imam Ma'asum has the right with this regard, but usually when you even study the life of the Prophet ﷺ, how many people he has killed, for example, that, Abu Sufyan, who was the top of the criminals, a war criminal, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he released him. And he said, من دخل دار Abu Sufyan فهو آمن. The one who goes to the house of Abu Sufyan, he's in immunity, in safety. Although he was a criminal, a war criminal. So basically, when the Ma'soom rules over the world, of course, he would fill the world with peace and justice and harmony and coexistence. In other words, there would be no more crimes, no more killings, no more wars. So the Imam would give a good life to the human beings, in which they don't need to commit crimes and haram, unless very few, just.
Sheikh, we've only got a couple of more minutes left, so we need to go through a few more questions if possible from our viewers. When is Jumadi Athani, tomorrow or after tomorrow?
I think the ulama has announced that it's going to be on the 5th of January, which is Wednesday.
Okay.
The first day.
Does Sufra al-Banin or Niyaz Imam Sadiq alayhi salam have any basis in narrations?
You see, anything that attracts one towards Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, any act that can provide the good deeds for the one's individual, in which you are actually feeding the one in the name of Az-Zahra alayhi salam, for example. Any act that would have no, let's say, misuse or some kind of ihana or hatak, as they say, to the ma'soom or to that act, that should be fine. So we have lots of amal we do, for example, in majalis, for example, the one who gives milk for Ali Asghar alayhi salam. These are all acts, good deeds in which one would be rewarded, inshallah, because the intention is pure.
Yes.
I want to feed or basically give water or give milk to those who are visiting this shrine or this Imam Barga or this mosque.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is abortion allowed?
Not at all.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. When is the, I'm probably assuming it's what is, but it says here, when is the most reliable narration of Fatimiyya? It could mean, is it the first, second or third narration? When is the most reliable narration of Fatimiyya?
The most famous ones is the second and the third. So some would consider the second, some would consider the third Fatimiyya.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Sheikhna. Thank you to all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If we didn't answer your question, we do apologize, and inshallah we'll be able to answer them on Wednesday's episode. But please send in all your questions via the WhatsApp, the email address. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, send it in the comment section. And inshallah, we'll be able to answer all your questions. Come in Wednesday, 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV 3. Inshallah, we'll see you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Whilst this winter many of you will be enjoying the festive season, Afghanistan is going through a crisis. Every winter the weather will reach temperatures as low as -18 degrees Celsius. With little finances and homes not adequate enough to keep the heat in, many families struggle during this season. The elderly are vulnerable and physically challenged to fight the cold during these days and nights. Young children must walk through snow and ice in order to get to school and return to a chilly and bitter cold home. Imam Hussein Development and Relief Foundation are determined to help. We will be providing households with coal to burn throughout the winter. $150 is all we need. $150 will be enough to provide heat and warmth for one household for the whole of winter. That's $150 for 4 months. You can donate via PayPal, bank transfer, or visit us at www.ihdrf.org to make a donation. Our Imams tell us the best of you are those who help those who are desperate. Help us spread the warmth. Thank you.
Fatima is a part of me. Whoever angers her angers me.
Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, Salamullahi alayha, has a great and tragic story. Throughout the year, we commemorate the calamities that befell Her Eminence through different narrations, and we honor her legacy.
أويلي أويلي على الكسرة وضلعها.
Therefore, her majalis must be established in Karbala. Imam Hussein TV complex has a Husainiyya being built on the ground floor to hold majalis throughout the year, to allow pilgrims to pray, rest and eat tabarruk, but it still needs a lot of work. We are asking for £250 and upwards to help with flooring, wiring, furnishing and decorating. Each donation of £250 will receive a bundle of Karbala relics, which include a turba of Karbala, prayer beads made from the holy land of Karbala, khaki-shifa from the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and lastly, a water of alqamah from beside the grave of Abu Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. Or if you donate £786, you will not only receive our Karbala bundle, but you will also receive an official flag from the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. These flags have had the barakah of being kept inside the blessed dome of the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada for 3 nights. To find out more, visit imamhussein3.tv/HQ or call us on the numbers displayed below. Let us not let the legacy of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra perish. Her story must be told.
يقول الرسول الأكرم صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: فاطمة بضعة مني يرضى الله لرضاها ويغضب لغضبها. My dear brothers and sisters, join me for some series of discussions on the lesson from the Lady of Light on Imam Hussein TV.
IHDRF is proud to announce the launch of its app, Sadaqah. Sadaqah is a modern, easy, and interactive way for you to pay your charity. Your Sadaqah can be transferred instantly and directly start helping orphans. Furthermore, you can donate to different projects such as clothing orphans, supplying clean water, heating fuel for the winter, and feeding the hungry. When you pay your Sadaqah, it will be used to feed, clothe, and school orphans. Our app is accessible via the App Store and Google Play Store. Download today and pay your Sadaqah.
الحمد لله على ما أنعم وله الشكر على ما ألهم
I'll be meeting a few researchers and a few scholars